Talk to me about Freemasonry.
Okay, now the term Freemason actually is an African or Kemetic term, right? The Freemason actually comes from words Re and Masu, or Frey and Masu, right? If you look at certain pharaohs, their name is Khafre, right? That means the spirit or personality of Re. Or if you look at Ramesses, that means the son or child of Re. So Freemason basically means children of the sun. Now, Freemasonry is thought to be a secret society. And when you think about it, you can look at it many ways. You can look at it as an extension of the ancient Kemetic or ancient Egyptian mystery system. It was a system by which people would come to learn under priests about basically information about mysteries. Now, if you look at it from that perspective, many organizations are secret societies, right? And individuals are secret societies because the individual is part of the organization comprised of individuals. A person who knows you really well is a person who's been initiated into the person of who you are, right? So a man who meets you, knows you for a day or two, may know your name, may know your age, and not much else. But a person who knows you for many years actually is an initiate in who you are, and vice versa, right? And when you look at any type of organization, as far as the government, right? If you are a junior senator or a junior congressperson, you're not exposed to certain information that people who've been in the government for many years have been exposed to. Look at Julian Assange. They just arrested him for exposing information that the government didn't want people to know about. But the government is said to be open, but it's really operating like a secret society, a secret, organization. So when you look at, or if you look at yourself personally, when you grow up, or when you're first born, you have hands, you have feet, you have eyes, but you don't really know the inner working until you get older and start to study them. And once you study yourself, you know yourself more. That's why under temples in ancient Egypt, they had know thyself, right? Because true knowledge is self-knowledge. So a secret society is basically a person, the person who you know, or any type of organization you want to get into. Because every organization or every group has its own vernacular, has its own type of rules and regulations. And you're not going to know it once you just start. Because again, you have to prove that you actually are willing to put in the work in order to get the information. If you're a baseball player, basketball player, and you're a rookie, that's not an organization or a club that anybody can get into. You have to put the work in. Once you put the work in, you know the lingo, you know the people. You get there for more years. After you get there for more years, you get your experience, you get your tenure, you get more money. If you look at a union, you have to pledge to get in a union. When you start a union, you're an apprentice, right? After a few years, you become, a master or whatever it is. So a secret society like Masonry, or Freemasons, parallels a personal relationship, parallels the relationship that you have with yourself, and parallels any organization you want to look at or compare it to.
What's the significance of the symbols?
Well, see, symbols speak to you on a much deeper level, right? Like you have symbolic language, which precedes syllabic language, right? So, for example, if you see the sign that says no smoke, with the circle with a line going through it with the cigarette in the middle, it means no smoking, right? You know what that symbol means. The name is, but you know what the symbol means, right? So symbols speak to you on a much deeper level. That's why they use symbols like the pyramid, like the eye, like the ankh, right? The pyramid, for example, symbolizes a woman's womb, right? And people coming from that womb, right? The eye represents knowledge, represents sight, the sun and the moon, right? If you look at the ankh, it represents, the cross also represents life. So those are famous symbols that are ancient Kemetic or ancient African, which have deeper meanings. And when you look at the Medu Neter, which is the actual language written and spoken by the ancient Kemetic people, it was very symbolic, right? It had about 4,000 sounds, but only about 40 sounds. So if you have that many signs, a symbol, but not that many sounds, it's primarily a syllabic language, a symbolic language as opposed to a syllabic language. So when you look at emblems on the car, those are symbols. For example, a Subaru is a star system. If you look at the infinity logo, it's the vanishing point or it's a rope which goes on forever. If you look at, the like the Toyota symbol, the 3 rings spells Toyota, right? If you look at it abstractly. So if you look at the Dodge Ram symbol is a female reproductive system. And what do Rams do? They pound it. And since cars are oftentimes seen as phallic symbols, right? A man with a big car or a powerful car is an extension of his phallics. So symbolic language and symbols run deep. You can say much more with a symbol than you can with a word. Because a word in and of itself is just abstract items put together, right? But let's say, for example, in ancient Egyptian, ancient Kemetic, the word for week, right, is a circle with a dot in it with upside down U, right? Now, a circle with a dot can mean many things. Now, in that instance, it actually represents the sun, Earth going around the sun, right? And the upside down U represents 10, because the week was 10 days, right? So the word was also a sentence. Now, if I were to write week, W-E-E-K, a W-E-A-K, a W-E and the E and the K mean nothing to you, right? But the circle with the dot and the upside down U actually tells you what the week is. So if you know that symbol or those symbols, whether it's from Africa or whether it's from Asia, because that same symbolic combination occurs in China as well, you know that you have parallelisms with symbolisms, and you can understand the word even if you've never seen it before.
Why the need for initiations?
You have to prove yourself. Again, if a person you just meet, wants to know you, you're not going to tell them everything about yourself, because how can you know they're trustworthy? If you meet a woman, you're not going to just automatically marry her after 2 hours, after 5 minutes. How you know she's worth your time, worth your effort? So again, we are all initiates in each other. So what happens is it takes years. What the ancient Kemetic people did, they would, you would be in the temples for years and years, for decades, and they wouldn't write things down because they didn't want to disseminate it. They didn't want to get in the wrong people's hands. Because again, you have esoteric and exoteric. Exoteric information is information that's on the outside that anybody can get. So if you go to a church, you go to a mosque, you're going to get, information anybody else can get. But you have people who actually go to school for theology and for these different religions to get PhDs in them. Of course, they're being taught things that you're not going to be taught if you just go to church on a Sunday or Saturday, right? So again, you have to prove you're willing to put the time in order to get exposed to information which is, esoteric. So that's how it works. It's common sense. You're not going to just give of yourself to a person who hasn't proved that they're worthy of you. And same with the organization, because again, an organization or a group, it consists of people, and people consist of organization. So self-knowledge self-knowledge is true knowledge, and when you know yourself, you know others, and you know others, you know yourself.
Are the symbols in Freemasonry an extension of the hieroglyphics in Egypt?
Many of them are. Again, you have to also understand the term hieroglyph is a Greek term. So I use again metaneta. Hieroglyph means high or important writing, because the ancient Greeks believed that what the Kemetic people did was very high, was very noteworthy. And the metaneta is what they called it. Now metaneta basically means the language or the images or principles of the god, right? So again, since everything came regarding knowledge from the ancient Kemetic or ancient African people, you're going to have their information travel and evolve different places at different times and acquire, and have some residual meaning, but also acquire new meanings. So whenever you're speaking about, organization by which you have many years of study in order to gain degrees of knowledge, you're speaking about the ancient Kemetic system, ancient African system. So of course they're going to take from where they got the ideas from, which is, ancient Egypt or ancient, Africa.